talk some football. Aaron Rodgers has told the Steelers, other NFL teams, he's made some personal commitments. Apparently, one of those commitments was watching the Kentucky Derby. Rodgers has yet to decide his NFL future, but it appears that if he does play, it'll be for the Steelers, whose starting quarterback position is still unresolved. That's why we bring in our NFL insider, Jeremy Fowler. He's here with us to give us some insight. So Pittsburgh's still waiting, obviously, on Aaron Rodgers. But then George Pickens' name, it was thrown around in some maybe possible trade discussions before the draft. I know my Cowboys supposedly inquired. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so George Pickens, his name was bantered around at the trade deadline or around the NFL draft. I'm told trade talks have really cooled here and that George Pickens, despite giving it some thought about a possible home elsewhere, he does want to stay in Pittsburgh. He feels a loyalty to Mike Tomlin, wants to make this work. He's in a contract year, so I never sensed any sort of major momentum here. Keep in mind, the Steelers are in a position where they need to keep that receiver room as attractive as possible for that man you saw at the Kentucky Derby. Aaron Rodgers not yet signed, so they're not really in the business of trading off capable pieces right now that he could potentially be throwing to. So my sense right now is that the Steelers remain optimistic, like they have been, about Rodgers eventually signing with Pittsburgh, but it's his first foray into free agency in his 20-year career. Still feels like anything can happen, but right now it is status quo with the Steelers and Rodgers. Okay, let's stay in the AFC. Let's stay in that division, by the way, because the Bengals, you know, they draft defensive end Shadour Stewart there, and it's some people said maybe that's an end of Trey Hendrickson in his era there in Cincinnati. What can you tell us about there? Yeah, they still want Trey, but this is at a contract stalemate a little bit. Both sides are just sort of waiting this out post-draft. They got a few months to try to shake out a long-term extension that Hendrickson certainly deserves after being a huge sack producer the last few years. So the Bengals want to get this done. Certainly they've made a commitment to trying to do it, but they have not made enough progress right now where a deal is imminent. But there's really not a lot of trade buzz here either. It sounds like he's going to be able to stay there, but they do have to get this done if they want him in the building playing games for them. And you got Jalen Ramsey. So Miami has been calling around on Ramsey, trying to work a potential trade. They were doing so in the days leading up to the NFL draft. So something could shake out here this offseason. I'm told Ramsey does want to play for a contender, so he wouldn't just go to any team considering his age, his pedigree as a Super Bowl winner. The sticking point here is that $24 million in guarantees. My sense after asking around is Miami has not been overly eager to cover some of that bill, which sort of makes a trade hard to pull off right now. LA Rams, it could be a reunion here. They've been in the mix here. They are a team to watch, certainly, for Ramsey. All right, that's our Jeremy Fowler.
But there's also more work for other teams to do. Are we pointing at the Fowler? This is time for the Fowler Files. There's a lot of work for a lot of teams to do right at this point in the offseason, kind of, as we creep closer and closer to minicamp and all the other things. Let's start with Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys, though. What's the latest?
Yeah, Shay, I'm told the Dallas Cowboys have not yet ramped up negotiations with Micah Parsons and his agent. That doesn't mean that they will not. They are budgeting for that. They want to keep Parsons long term. They do have a penchant for signing their star players. It just takes a little while. Last year, Dak Prescott didn't get his deal done until September 8th, right before the season. CeeDee Lamb, late August. So they could certainly draw this out, but they know what the price tag is, $35, $40 million per year for a player of his caliber, so they're going to save that money, although they could spend a little bit to add a receiver in free agency. Amari Cooper, I'm told there is at least some mutual interest in bringing him back. And next we got Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals, so we're out of the draft. There really isn't a lot of buzz right now about Hendrickson being traded. It seems like it's contract extension or bust for the Bengals. They want to do this as well, but this is really a stalemate. Both sides are sort of waiting this out. We'll see what gives. And they have to do something because Hendrickson will assuredly miss offseason workouts without a deal. Could even miss some training camp or game action. We'll see how that goes, but he is dug in, I'm told. And you got George Pickens. So coming out of the draft, there was a little bit of smoke, a little bit of trade chatter about them potentially moving Pickens. But right now I'm told that they're going to go forward with the offseason program, and Pickens wants to be with the Steelers. He's in a contract year. He's most likely not getting a new deal with that team. That money went to DK Metcalf. He feels a loyalty to Mike Tomlin, so he wants to make it work. And the Steelers are not in the business of shipping out good receivers right now because they're trying to woo one Aaron Rodgers. So we know that the Steelers remain optimistic from what I'm hearing. Nothing has really changed on that front, but there's no hard update about him signing with the team or anything imminent right now. But at least they should have Pickens in the fold, DK Metcalf, et cetera, for Rodgers when or if he does sign.
Yeah, it's great to have all these receivers. Who's throwing them the ball, though? Right now, the current Steelers quarterback room, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. We'll see about Aaron Rodgers, right? We'll reopen the Fowler file.
2025. We got that Jets logo there. He's currently on the market. Who wants him? Well, the Steelers seem to be the team. Yet, is he actually going to play? Because You saw him on McAfee. He said, I've got some personal things to deal with.
Yep.
I'll tell you this. He told the Giants and the Steelers straight up, I have no timetable. If you want to move on, you can move on. The Giants, they opted to pivot. They went with Russell Wilson and of course, Jameis Winston, and now a rookie. Steelers, Will Howard's the only new quarterback they added. He's a 6th round pick. 2, we got the schedule release, May 14th. It's a couple Wednesdays from now. And I want to see who the Eagles open up with. This, to me, is an interesting one. The NFL usually will pit the teams that they think are going to be relevant at the end of the season. The Eagles schedule some of the teams that they could play at home. Well, the Rams, the Lions, the Bears, and how about the Raiders? Some interesting teams that they could possibly do. And, of course, the entire NFC East is a possibility. Who deserves that prime billing of that Thursday night game? My third one's an interesting one. James Cook. You're like, James Cook? Yeah, we know. Josh Allen's the MVP. A lot of running backs got paid this offseason, including Saquon getting a renegotiated deal that will make him the highest paid running back in the league. James Cook was unbelievable last year. He's entering the final year of his contract. His agent and him have publicly said they want more than $15 million. The Bills have scoffed at that number. James Cook is an amazing player. Awesome, and was huge in that AFC Championship game. They need him. Let's see what they can do. The last one is this. I go Shadour, but it's really the Browns quarterback room. Like, I don't know if they can do Hard Knocks because of all the rules, but I would love to just have a camera on all of these names. Now, look, Deshaun Watson, he's going to be paid $46 million to not play. Must be nice. Then you got Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, who was drafted before Shadour in the 3rd round, and then Shadour Sanders. I'm curious, how does it work out in minicamp? How does it work out in training camp? And then when we get to week 1 with the Cleveland Browns, who is under center?
And that's your 2 minutes. Peter Schrager, a professional, breaking things down this morning on SportsCenter. Schrags, fantastic to see you, man. Thanks.
We're joined now by our senior NFL insider, Adam Schefter. I mean, listen, Shadour was drafted 2 days ago, and still all anybody wants to know, Shefty, is why. What are you hearing about why he slid to the 5th round?
I think it's a confluence of factors, El, all working together all at one time. You're talking about a player who is a good prospect, not an elite prospect in the eyes of National Football League front office executives. You're talking about not a ton of teams needing quarterbacks, and the teams that needing quarterbacks preferring other quarterbacks like Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck and even Dylan Gabriel. So you had teams that filled their quarterback need. You had other teams that weren't looking for a quarterback, and you had a player, by all accounts, talking to front offices that basically said that it was not a great interview process for Shadour Sanders. It all conspired together to create a situation where we saw him fall to pick number 144. But the truth of the matter is, El, it really doesn't matter. Because now Shadour Sanders gets his chance. Now he gets to go to the Cleveland Browns. Now he gets to show every NFL team, including the Browns, what they missed out on early in the draft. And if he performs in the legendary way, in the word that he likes to use, then all of this will be made to look front offices and coaching staffs look foolish. He gets his say now. Let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't want to go in the 5th round, but right now the Browns quarterback room is the island of misfit toys. There's very much a path for him to start. We're going to talk with Jason McCourty coming up about that. A team that a lot of people thought might make a go at Shadour Sanders is, of course, the Steelers. They instead, in the 6th round, picked Ohio State quarterback Will Howard. What does that mean about Aaron Rodgers' future there in Pittsburgh?
I think they believe and are quietly confident that Aaron Rodgers eventually will come around and sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, it's late April. He hasn't done that yet, but if you listen to the Steelers owner, Art Rooney, this weekend, he sounded a tone of optimism and confidence that eventually Aaron Rodgers will wind up in the Steel City with the Steelers. That is the expectation. Aaron Rodgers himself has not said what he's ready to or not to do just yet, but the Steelers are operating like they are confident that Aaron Rodgers will be in the fold. They talked about adding a couple more quarterbacks to go along with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. One came this weekend, Will Howard. Now they wait for the other in Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, there's also another veteran quarterback whose future is really up in the air, and I'm talking about Falcons backup Kirk Cousins. What's the latest that you're hearing about him?
Well, to me, this would be, in the eyes of people across the league, the backup plan in Pittsburgh if Aaron Rodgers decided not to come back to the Steelers, because then Kirk Cousins would be a veteran quarterback that would have some appeal and draw some interest from some teams. Right now, we saw all these teams fill their quarterback needs. We saw the Cleveland Browns, who really couldn't have afforded to trade for Kirk Cousins anyway, draft 2 quarterbacks, Shadour Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. We saw the Minnesota Vikings trade with Seattle for quarterback Sam Howell. Really, the only team right now that has a pressing quarterback need is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting for Aaron Rodgers. But if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come through and decides he doesn't want to play, then I would think Kirk Cousins would figure to be on the Steelers' list of potential replacements. And if Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, what that would mean to Kirk Cousins would be he might have to wait for another team to suffer some type of setback at the quarterback position, an injury, just to see what happens. Because right now, there's a real possibility he could be going to camp with the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, he tied for his most in a career in interceptions with 16 last season. Had a really good start to the season, but certainly went downhill from there. Adam Schefter always bringing it to.
Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cách làm một sợi dây treo trang trí đơn giản từ len nhé. Nguyên liệu của mình cần có chính là len. Mình sử dụng 3 màu sắc như thế này để làm nhé mọi người. Màu đỏ, màu vàng và màu xanh lá nha. Mình sẽ kết hợp lại với nhau. Mọi người chuẩn bị cho mình kim móc len này, kéo. Rồi giờ mình sẽ bắt tay vào làm nhé. Mình sẽ sử dụng cái phần len màu vàng trước. Mình gỡ len ra để dùng nhé. Rồi bây giờ sẽ móc vào đây. Mình sẽ móc một cái hình như thế này. Một cái nút thắt trước. Đây, móc vào đây. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ móc những cái mũi bính kép nhé. Rồi bây giờ móc vào. Móc vào. Mình sẽ móc luân phiên từng mũi nhé. Rồi, móc thêm nhiều mũi tiếp theo nhé. Mũi tiếp theo. Đấy, móc tiếp xuống. Mọi người cứ luân phiên như thế này là được. Mình tiếp tục mình móc nha. Mũi nữa này. Rồi mình sẽ được cái chuỗi như này. Giờ sẽ móc hàng tiếp theo đây, một mũi bình đơn này. Móc xuống đây là 2 mũi cùng một chân nhé mọi người. Mình móc xuống. Đấy, móc vào. Mình sẽ móc những cái mũi nửa kép nhé. Rồi móc tiếp xuống. 3 đi, mình sẽ móc 3 mũi vào một chân.